In 2020, since there was a CVE reported and security hole, it would take more than a year until there was a public exploit that people can use in order to hack with it. Nowadays, with Claude and OpenAI and other players, the time has shrunk from 1 year to 1 day. So now you treat every CVE, every security issue that you have, as immediately exploitable.
Hi folks, James here, and welcome to the Spyro Circle, this time in collaboration with Forbes Israel. Recently, I spoke to Shimon Tolts from Copperhelm. They're an agentic AI cybersecurity company, and they're operating after just receiving a couple of $1 million in seed funding just in April. And I spoke to Shimon all about the era of cybersecurity that we're in, and his interest in all of the technology from the age of 14, and what it means to basically operate today in a world where AI machines are going to be attacking companies and AI defense mechanisms are going to be in place to deter that. So we spoke about man, we spoke about machine, and I really hope you enjoy. Shimon, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I want to talk to you a bit about, obviously, cybersecurity and the company and the industry, but I thought you'd be quite an interesting person to speak to because you were, by your own admission, building Linux systems from the young age of about 14. And you said you started your first company at 15. So I can't think of anyone who has been more encompassed from such a young age to today in the era that we've been living through and seeing such change. So talk us through that. Talk us through who Shimon was, age 14, building the systems you were building.
Yeah, so I just, up until then, I always loved computers, but somehow someone told me about this thing like open source and Linux, and I got my hand on a Red Hat 6, and I was like, so a computer, it can be something different than a Windows operating system? Because then, like, I couldn't imagine anything else, and I installed Linux. And I remember running to the living room to my mother. I was like, I installed Linux. She's like, yeah, well, you'll be okay. We'll find a cure. Like, it's like, well, okay, honey, like, have fun. And I did not know how pivotal of a moment will this be, because then I started learning and about open source and understanding how it works and the contributions. And I really got down the rabbit hole. And one film that I really, really recommend people see is Revolution OS. And this is about Richard Stallman and Linus Torvald and how they built the open BSD and Linux and all of the tooling around it and how they created it. And I was really, really fascinated by it. And then really what happened is that at the time there was no cloud. And I was living in Israel, and back then we barely had the internet. So I remember I was going to it's already some time has passed, so I can tell it. So like actually my first entrepreneurial thing was I was selling games and movies that I would download at my father's work. He worked at the Hebrew University. It was like 20 something years ago. So
I hope I'm not going to get you in trouble if this is how the conversation is going to go. I don't want you to reveal too many crimes you may have committed at a young age.
Yeah, and so this is like I was like in the sixth grade or something, and I was selling like discs. But then really at 15, I opened my first company, which was a web hosting company, and it really started by a need. Like we were playing games and Counter-Strike and Medal of Honor and like coding websites, and we just had nowhere to put them. So I scrapped some money and like got the first server and put it in an ISP. It was in Israel at Petach Tikva. And then for like 3 years until I was drafted to the military, I had a company with 300 websites. Back then it was Apache, Linux, MySQL, and then I had 300 customers. And one day my mother woke up and there was like a Visa machine, to charge people. And I don't know what like if like my daughter does it now, I don't know. It's like I don't know.
That's so funny. Wow. So you really are one of those kids that, they say, like, people like Bill Gates. I don't inflate your ego too much by comparing you to Bill Gates, but the young techie guy that was building the computers, or at least cracking them open, right? There's always that kid that wants to disassemble something or build something or download something and code it. What did And we'll get into kind of where we are today in the new age of all of this. But what did it feel like back then? As you said, like a time before the internet, before cloud, all of this time. What was the computing space like in that era?
Well, the first computer I remember was a 486, and I think my parents got it when I was like 8 years old or something. And I remember seeing it, and I like turn it on, and then the first thing I did is turn it off and open it to see what is inside, because I like to understand how things work. Of course, I did not understand what I'm looking at, but like I just wanted to see like what's in there. Um, and I think that we are fortunate enough to live in several eras. So we had like the internet revolution. Now, like some also consider the app revolution a big one. I consider the cloud revolution a big one, but I'm a cloud guy. We'll get into that, and obviously the AI revolution, which
Mm.
changes everything. So for me, I was always within communities. We used to do like Linux installation parties. So you would come with a computer, and like we will do a party where we install Linuxes on the computers and really get to know open source and Linux and really have fun with it.
I think you and I attended quite different parties growing up. Um, what's something that you as a teenager learned about technology that might still be true today, or is just everything's totally different? That's a moot question.
I think that what is true is that you can learn everything on the internet, and it's still true today. I remember when I was like, because I had money, because I had the company, so I would go to school and I bought a laptop. And I remember when I was like 16, I would come with the laptop to school, and I was like the weirdest guy ever. It's like, what is going on? Why is he sit with the computer? And I'm not that old, yes, but
Yeah, I was going to say we're probably similar in age.
yeah, but it's just, I don't know. It just was fairly early. But I think it's even more true today. You can learn anything. And today, like sometimes people tell me, "Oh, I want to learn how to use Claude better," and I tell them, "Great, tell Claude to teach you how to use Claude better." And they're like, "Oh, I can ask it to teach me how to use it." And I'm like, "Yes."
That's actually one of the things about another episode that I recorded recently about whether it's the build versus buy aspect of AI. So are people going to be buying softwares or technologies, or are they going to be building it themselves? And one of the arguments against building it yourself is the idea of this very thing. Like, people don't know what to ask these technologies. They don't know what to put in to get the best out. So you might want to outsource it. Anyway, that's a conversation. I can hyperlink that conversation to another time. What I want to talk about now is Copperhelm, and the company that you're running, and the one that just received $7 million in seed. So congratulations for that. Earlier this year, I think about 2 months ago, maybe, I think in April, seed round led by Tel Aviv partners. Your thesis, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically engineering teams have already got AI co-pilots and automation, but security teams are still drowning in alerts. So you folks try to mitigate some of those challenges. Talk us through a bit about what the company does and how maybe all of your experience until now has led to this moment.
Yeah, so I think maybe we'll go back, right? So if we look at it, if we look at the cloud security solutions, and I've been using the cloud ever since 2012. I run a community of 11,000 cloud architects. I've been awarded as an AWS hero and a CNCF ambassador, and really I've been doing cloud for many years. And there are some great companies in the cloud space. So like sometimes the question is like, why now? Like there are great companies, and I think that there is a major shift, and we see this like mainly from since April. We anticipated it ever since we opened the company, but really cloud security solutions were designed for human operators fighting human attackers, and the platforms that were developed for that are amazing companies, and we partner with them and we work with them. We use Orca, Palo Alto Networks, the cloud native CSPMs. But what we set to do is really to build a solution, a platform that is catered for agentic AI operators fighting autonomous attackers. And this is very different. So if we look at the landscape, it changes significantly. So it changed from having hundreds of new findings every week to tens of thousands, and this is because of the AI coding and AI discovering of issues. Triaging has become almost impossible. Like, you used to have some alerts, and then the security team would open it to the to the engineering team and go check if this is truly an issue, if this is vulnerable or not. Today it's just the amounts that you have, you can't really hold it. And there's a new attack vector, which is attack chaining. And this was reserved to nation state actors, where they would build very sophisticated attack chains. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars. And today, with the release of Mythos, with the release of OpenAI 5.5 Cyber, and other models, they're able to take like six medium to low issues and create an attack chain.
So sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there. Explain to the listener or viewer who may not be familiar what that is exactly.
So, up until recently, the way cloud security was usually done is you would scan all of your servers, and there you would have vulnerabilities and issues, and those issues would get a score. There would be a critical issue, a high issue, a medium issue, or a low issue. And what the companies would usually do is try to fix the critical ones as fast as possible, try to get to the high ones, and then the medium and the lows would usually never even be fixed. Um, and before the AI attacks, before the autonomous attackers, that was a plot, you could do it. Today, there is a shift into the way where models are able to take like six steps and create a chain. Now, this chain takes six issues that are each one by themselves is a medium severity or a low severity, but they create a chain attack. Now, the problem with that is that companies have hundreds of thousands and millions of medium and low vulnerabilities that they never took care of. And up until today, it was a very manual process. You needed to task the issue to the engineers and ask them to investigate whether it's truly exploitable, and then apply mitigations and remediations to deal with the issue.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, yeah, it's a huge issue, right? But and you're right, because there's alert fatigue on one hand, because it's you get so many alerts that the human can get overwhelmed, or the opposite of overwhelmed, right? They can get underwhelmed by the amount of
Mhm.
alerts, because they can kind of become immune to the alert themselves, or they just get overwhelmed by how many things they have to do. So there's the AI that comes in that, but there's also this idea, which I think I'm getting from this, which is kind of AI versus AI. So you're getting AI protective systems to defend against AI attack systems.
Yeah. We see a shift from risk management, from saying we're going to live with a certain risk, to companies saying we're going to have zero risk to internet exposed assets, because we see the models being able to do attacks that they weren't able to do before. And let me share an interesting piece of data with you. In 2020, since there was a CVE reported and security hole, it would take more than a year until there was a public exploit that people can use in order to hack with it. Nowadays, with Claude and OpenAI and other players, the time has shrunk from 1 year to 1 day. So now you treat every CVE, every security issue that you have, as immediately exploitable. So it's not only that you have more issues, it's not only that they're able to chain them, so you need to fix the low priority ones, they also can do it very fast. So your window of response has shrinking, and you need to autonomously take care of it.
Wow. It sounds like an overwhelming. I'm getting overwhelmed. Definitely not fatigued by the challenges ahead. Let's just give some context for why we're talking, or not why, but like how where we are in our conversation today in terms of the industry and some of the things you've just mentioned. So, Anthropic's newest Claude reasoning systems and autonomous workflow tooling have accelerated enterprise experimentation with AI agents that are capable of coding, investigation, memory, other such things. Security companies across the industry are racing to integrate autonomous AI operations into workflows like Microsoft Security Copilot, CrowdStrike Charlotte AI, etc., etc. So you've mentioned Mythos and what Anthropic is doing there, and how it's changing some of the conversations. What was the breakthrough? Was it a trust breakthrough, a context breakthrough, reasoning? Like what broke through?
So I think that the breakthrough is that what used to be the highest paying job, which was a security researcher, to identify vulnerabilities in a very different set of events, has become the thing that the models do the best now. So they're able to find holes faster than there is, and this is why the U.S. government has sanctioned Claude to wait with the Mythos release, and they released it to 50 companies. Now they've expanded it to 200 companies. So the models are able to find threats very fast, and also when there is already a reported threat, because there is the National Vulnerability Database, and it holds all the threats. So you can really go and see CVE number 1234, and the models are able to create an exploit in 1 day. It used to take 1 year, now it takes 1 day. So this situation is really problematic. It's no longer the case where you can just open a Jira ticket and wait for some engineer to fix it in 1 year or 1 month, because now you're gonna get exploited very, very fast. Um,
Does that 1 year to 1 day reduction? What does that tell us? Because it tells me that we all just massively underestimated the threat of reasoning versus just scale. It's not the
yeah,
scale
so
of attack, but it's the type of attack. Is that fair to say?
yeah, so I don't know if we understand. Like, we started the company and we saw that this is coming, and they really we started building it, and we saw that, like, the major change, it started with the developers and like generating code, and then it really expedited. And we see Mythos, and I don't think it's gonna slow any day soon. Tokens are becoming cheaper and cheaper. The models are becoming better and better. And it's a real problem. Another piece of data I want to share with you is that the National Vulnerability Database on the 15th of April has announced that they're unable to classify vulnerabilities anymore. So let me just unpack that. Today, the way a security researcher, which today might be a security researcher using Claude, is finding a security issue, they need to file it to the National Vulnerability Database, which is a United States backed agency. And then they go and they vet it, and they check whether it's a true issue or not. And then they start to assess what is the severity. Is it low, medium, high, or critical? They had an increase of 263% in submissions, because people generate more code, they find more issues, and they've announced that they're going to stop classifying new CVEs. So when new issues are going to be released, you'll no longer be able to use the old risk management methodology of saying I'm only going to fix criticals, because you're not going to have a severity anymore. So this is a major, major change that is like the last 3 months were pivotal in this space.
So, where do you folks fit into that terrifying development?
Yeah, so our approach to the problem is, we said, okay, so while looking at it and understanding that we're building a new solution that is from day one AI native, catered for agentic AI operators fighting autonomous attackers. So we said we believe the following approach has to have three pillars. Number one, you need to hold the scale. So we do autonomous investigation. So our agents take and investigate whether a threat is truly exploitable or not. Because it is not enough. Let's say, James, you have a virus on your computer. But if it's a file and it is not executed and it is not running, you cannot actually, it cannot be hacked because it's just laying on the disk. So in many cases, scanners, when they scan your machines, they find issues, but you don't know if you're truly exploitable or not. You don't know if this virtual machine is exposed to the internet, if you have a web application firewall. And up until today, you would ask an engineer to do it, to go and check, is the web application firewall already mitigating it? Is this asset connected to the internet? So, with the current scale, it is just impossible to do it manually. And this is why our approach brings autonomous investigation. Agents that connect to your servers and investigate and either disqualify or prove the full exploitability of an issue. The second pillar is the response. So we have an autonomous resolution agent that is able to go and take those validated exposures that you have and then help you resolve them. We have two main methodologies. Number one is like stop the bleed. It's mitigation attacks, mitigation methodologies. So you mitigate the attacks by applying compensating controls. So you can add a web application firewall rule, you can add an EDR rule, you can disable a capability on a machine. Maybe your mouse driver on your server has a critical issue. But guess what? A server doesn't need a mouse. So I can connect to the server and unload the mouse driver from your kernel and you won't be exploitable anymore. So number one, stop the bleed. Number two is do smart resolution. So I would tell you, James, here, if you fix this one issue, you will resolve 1,000 issues. So number one is like finding the cost-effective areas where you want to focus. And number two is we generate markdown code that you can put in your Claude code as a developer and apply the fix. So we really streamline to the new way of development and connect to the life cycle of the engineers.
Wow, that sounds like a super exciting way of tackling some of the challenges that are facing this new era of cybersecurity. But you may understand all of this, and I may enjoy hearing from you and also understanding all of this. But what do you tell the random everyday exec who maybe needs to be told that their enterprise or their system or whatever it may be needs the level of protection against the type of threat that we've been talking about today? I mean, are you finding there to be any barrier in terms of kind of customer adoption or kind of getting up to date with the industry?
So I think that, like, I can see it from our pipeline, there is an understanding that there is a true problem and you need to take care of it. Some organizations are able to adopt tools faster, some it takes more time, but I think everyone is moving to the right direction. I think one of the scariest places and the places where still has to be improvement, and this is the third approach of our solution, is really having a correlation agent to find the attack chains. And this is really the, in my mind, is the final stage where is like you don't look at every exposure by itself, you correlate and you understand and think companies have like hundreds of thousands of possible attack chains because it's like a lot of variants. So you need to find the correlations and then apply prevention methods to say you have one, two, three, four, five steps in the chain. Now, if the developer makes this change, it's gonna open the chain. So we need to prevent it. And I think this is the really like where we're going, because like investigating better, of course, fixing faster, of course, but I think that really the big problem going ahead is the attack chaining and how do we discover attack chains, correlate them, and prevent them.
And I can't imagine I can't imagine humans being as strong or powerful as AI in the sheer scale of identifying some of these chains, right? And in terms of the reasoning and the sheer data they have to work with, I mean, if you don't have AI doing that, then you don't even stand a chance. Or am I doing
No
your
way.
marketing for you?
No. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. So so I'll you know what? I'll have a controversial answer, and I'll say we're trying to do everything we can without AI, um, to the extent where, in order to power our technology, we've developed a context lake. This context lake is what connects to all of your organization's data connectors. So we connect to your cloud, to your existing scanners, to your existing compensating controls, WAFs, EDRs, and so on. And it builds the map of what you have. But then you really need to have the infrastructure in order to be able to deploy those agents in a cost effective and adjusted way, because you can't just take take an old platform and say I'm gonna bolt in AI agents. It's not gonna work, because you can't take a Ferrari engine and put it on a Fiat. So what we've done is really our context lake has the ability to run and dispatch the agents in a cost-effective way, to have the guardrails to in order to do safe actions, to correlate across all the data. So to answer your question, we do as much as we can with deterministic code, but of course most of it is not, because the amount of correlations and investigations and so on. So basically, we automate the person, the engineer that used to do it. Now the agent does it.
And so, at what point does all of this just become too complex for humans entirely? Do you imagine a cybersecurity where it is just simply agent versus agent because the AI, because the human is just, then they will be overwhelmed, you know?
Well, it is like, if you think about it, like, for example, our platform, we autonomously detect, investigate, and mitigate issues, and then those issues occur in to get in the beginning because engineers use AI, and then they use a component that is vulnerable. So if you think about it, it's a loop,
Right.
and
The
everyone is trying to improve on their side and to reduce it. But yeah, it's a great time to be here. It's the most. It's like I'm stoked every day. It's a brand new world. It's crazy.
It's definitely an interesting place to be, and anyone who is excited to go to work every day is fortunate to do the things they're doing. I do want to push back a bit though, because it's a bit frightening if we imagine a place where it's agent versus agent, good and bad, and the human is increasingly taking a bit of a step back. I do want to ask questions related to trust and hallucinations and explainability and all of the things that come with AI. But when the AI threats become so large and the AI defense has to become equally as large, um, what does that say about how autonomous things should really become? And are we entering a stage where that might be dangerous and they might take us in ways that we don't fully understand? What would you say to the people who are pushing back against autonomy like that?
Well, I think that you can't really. It's like, it's like pushing back against the internet. You can't do it. I will say, like, what I see from, we have Fortune 500 paying customers, and what we see, there are different adoption scales, different adoption. I would say it like curves, right? So some companies are very risk averse, and they're like, okay, let's just, like, suggest the change, suggest the fix, um, see how it can work, but we still want to do it manually. But they understand that they're going to reach the autonomous stage. And there are others where they're like, yeah, let's just like start from the get go. Create the firewall rules, maybe don't put it in block mode, put it in monitor mode, and let us validate. But like, this is where it's going. um, I don't think there's any way. I'm talking with very large and serious organizations, and it just I have a customer. They have 10 million vulnerabilities, and they know it's impossible. Like before Mythos, they would say, "Listen, we have a lot, but we're trying to like work the top ones," and then they even created two severities above critical, which is like I don't know, super critical and super duper critical, or what to call it, and they will literally do that. What is happening today is they're looking at it and they go like, okay, so we see the change. Now we really need to address everything, and then they can't really address it, right? It's impossible to do it.
I want to now touch on something that we addressed at the start of the episode, but we kind of went around it and didn't really dwell on it too much, which is your recognition as an AWS hero and some of the things that you've done there, as well as the community that you mentioned that you kind of helped run with the thousands of people all together. So, what does that? What does being an AWS hero mean, and what does that expose you to in terms of maybe insights or community or network?
So back in 2016, which is now 10 years ago, I was awarded as the first AWS hero in the Middle East. I did not expect this. Um, Myself and some other great community leaders, we founded an AWS user group. And what is an AWS user group? It's a community. It's meetup groups. We had more than 150 meetups up until today, and the slogan I like to say is by the community for the community, by the users for the users. So this is not does not belong to AWS. We go on stage and we say this thing ABC is great. And then we say CDE is total shit. Don't use this. We've tried it. It doesn't work well because we're not affiliated officially with AWS, and it's great because we're the user group, but we're free to say whatever we want because we're not getting paid or anything. um,
Wow.
and as part of that, Amazon has chose around 100 people worldwide as their like ambassadors, and they gave me the award as an AWS hero, which you sign a personal NDA, and then you're able to. Every year, I attend their conference at reInvent at Las Vegas, and I'm able to meet with the CTO of AWS, Dr. Werner Vogels, and we get access to all the betas. And we're a focus group, and they ask us for our feedback. They tell us about all of the upcoming features and ask our feedback. So it's really great, and it's also helping me today because we're kind of jumped from cloud engineering to cloud security, which is like both sides of the same coin, right? So
I know you signed an NDA, so maybe you can't answer this, but are there any conversations happening in those circles that may not have reached the mainstream just yet? Any breaking news you can share with us today?
well, it's always happening. One of the interesting parts with AWS is that they're really customer obsessed, which is amazing. And they just go and they ask people and about what features would they like to say, what do you think is good or bad, score it, suggest it. Some of the like the containers roadmap is open source. You could it's like in GitHub, you can watch it. Um, and really things are just moving so fast. Um, and We support all cloud vendors with Copperhelm, and we work on all and with all cloud vendors. And to be honest, all of my customers have multi-cloud anyways. And we really see like last year there was a like inter-cloud connect service, and this would have never happened like 5 years ago. They were like they don't acknowledge the existence of the other one. And now today you can have a network to network connection between Azure and AWS and GCP, and they really baked it in as a built-in connection. So I do see a change in the industry.
Wow, amazing. You heard it here first. What can you tell me about Copperhelm and some of the things that you folks have lined up? I know you're still in early days and you just secured your seed, so I'm sure you have a long vision ahead of you. What are some of the things that you may be able to anticipate in the, let's say, 18 months ahead? Which we know now 18 months can be 18 years in terms of change.
Yeah. For us, we already have a system in production. We have paying customers. and we're able to help the customers eliminate their hundreds of thousands of issues that they have in their cloud today, eliminate 70 to 90% of the noise, and help drive autonomous resolution. Um, the way I see things going is really with the part of attack chaining. And we're doing vulnerabilities, we're doing network, we're looking at the identity, we're looking at data. Really, our lens is through cloud security, and cloud security has different verticals. Like, there are companies who are like, I do vulnerability management for on-prem, for endpoint, for cloud. Like, we're the other way around. We're like a horizontal company where we do cloud security, so we have many use cases. And now, and the interesting part is, now with attack chaining, you really see all of that come together, because an attack chain is the combination of a vulnerability and a misconfiguration and a promiscuous IAM role that has access to data that it shouldn't have, and it all comes together. So this is really a big focus of ours.
Wow, amazing. Shimon, I can't wait to see how it all goes, and all the things that you're going to achieve and explore and experiment with in the days ahead of your very, very early and young company, which I'm sure will have a very long and prosperous future in these exciting times. Unfortunately, we're approaching the end of our time and the end of the points I have that I wanted to discuss with you today. I do have one last question, which is, what is the best way for people to keep up to date with you, or follow what you're up to, or follow what Copperhelm's up to, and some of the exciting maybe insights that they may be able to get from you?
Yeah, I think my LinkedIn is the best area. I also do videos. I started a series where I interview CISOs now about really how they see the changes, and how they deal with it. I encourage cloud security leaders, CISOs, deputy CISOs. They can reach out and talk to me. I'd be happy to share like what I'm seeing other companies doing. We talk with many Fortune 2000 companies, and see the different approaches they're taking here. So really would love to connect. Really, Copperhelm website or my LinkedIn.
Amazing. I'll make sure to put those links down in the description and on the screen now so people can follow. Shimon, thank you so much for your insights today. You started your experimentation and your exploration as a young child, and I'm sure it'll go on way into your later years. But for now, thank you so much for your time and insights today.
Thank you.